Hi, welcome to AsianAviation.com. I'm Matt Driskill in Singapore, and today we're talking with Dr. Bicky Bhangu. Did I pronounce that right?
You did indeed.
We're here at Rolls-Royce at the Seletar Airport or Aerospace Park, and he's going to tell us all about Rolls-Royce today. Rolls-Royce has been in Singapore since, well, first of all, congratulations on your new role. You are now the Director of Southeast Asia and the Pacific.
The Regional Director for Southeast Asia and Pacific.
What does that entail, and are you in charge of everybody in the region?
Well, we have quite a vast amount of footprint from all the way from South Korea all the way down to Australia and New Zealand, and that includes our sort of conversations with our customers and delivering to our customers in that part of the world, in this part of the world.
As we were talking before, and Rolls-Royce started in Singapore in the 1950s. We started expanding here at Seletar in 2008. You're doing the Trent engine here, and I believe some Trent 7000 development as well. How have things worked out in Singapore, and sort of what are your plans for Singapore specifically?
Well, if you look at us, what we've achieved in the last 5 years, we do high-value manufacturing. We do assembly and test of two different engine types, for the A380 and the 787 Dreamliner. We do technology and develop technology for our future products and services that will go into our products in probably 20 years' time, and we're doing that here in Singapore. We've got a Center of Excellence for Maintenance, Repair, and Overhaul. So this is our Trent family of engines that the MRO looks after throughout its product life cycle, 20-25 years. And then we've also got the marine footprint here as well, from high-speed diesel technology, which is the MTU part of the business, to medium-speed diesel technology, which is our marine systems. And all of that is here in Singapore. And the way we see Singapore is that it's a hub for the region. So from Singapore extending out into the whole of Southeast Asia and Pacific, there's an increasing customer base in this part of the world. If you look at our order book today at £79.8 billion, half of that comes from this part of the world. And that's Southeast Asia and Pacific, well, Asia and Middle East. So the customer focus in this part of the world is increasingly growing, and so is our capability, and our sort of visibility in this part of the world is increasingly growing as well.
When I was walking in the door just this afternoon, I noticed a lot of young people out there that were signing up. Are you hiring now? Are you expanding? How many people do you have at Seletar?
In Seletar itself, we have 950 people here, and we'll probably hit about 1,000 to sort of with the ramp-up activities that we have planned for sort of this year and the next. If you look at the number of engines that we make, we're making 4 engines a week. So that's 18,000 parts and components coming in, modules coming in from globally. We're assembling that together in a product flow line. We're testing the engines, and then we're delivering that to our customers, Boeing and Airbus. Now, if you look at our ramp-up activities, we're going to aim to hit 250 engines a year. That's a clock rate and a regular drum beat of 5 engines a week. Now, that doesn't mean we need another 200, 300 people, because we're not labor intensive. The skill sets here are capital intensive, and they're skills intensive, not labor intensive. So we'll probably take our numbers up to 1,000 people, and they'll sort of deliver our full capacity.
We've talked before, when I was here before and we talked, Singapore, obviously, highly educated workforce. Singapore government, very supportive of the aviation industry and maritime industry as well. But aviation, they see that as a key driver of the economy here. A lot of MRO shops are expanding. You're expanding. Some of your competitors are expanding as well. Singapore is space constrained, though. Does that affect you at all? Are you looking at other locations, perhaps in Southeast Asia and the Pacific, where you might have to, just because there's physically no space here?
Well, against our order book that we have the capacity that we need in the UK and in Singapore to develop the engines, to assemble the engines that we need for our customer base for the next 10, 15 years. When we look at space constraints, I think there's a fantastic opportunity within the region to develop the supply chain initiatives. When we look at supply chain of components that come from our traditional markets, that is inventory and that's logistics. And we can simplify that model by bringing that capability and extending that capability into this part of the world.
You jumped ahead on my questions a little bit. Supply chain. Everybody talks the 2 words, big data, and so we're putting, you have the Internet of Things. You have everybody's. If it's not measured, then it's not. It doesn't exist. Yeah. How is Rolls-Royce responding to that? How are you implementing that in Southeast Asia? And also, supply chain management. When I worked at INSEAD, they had, a whole section of courses about supply chain management.
Sure.
Digitization, does that make it easier? Is it easier in Southeast Asia compared to Europe or the US? What's going on with your supply chain?
If I sort of take a more of a holistic view from a Rolls-Royce perspective, today we see ourselves as a mechanical company, electrical company, and a digital capability company. And what that means is that digital touches our value chain in many different ways. It touches our customers, because we've been doing data analytics on our engines for the last 20 years, so you're right.
Let me stop you there. How many data points do you get from your most recent engine?
So
50,000?
If you do a simulation, we can get 3 terabytes of data on an engine, and then we'll collect a vast amount of data with the engine in service. We'll collect a vast amount of data of life cycle management, and this is where we can unlock a huge amount of potential, because it's not just about collecting the data when the engine's in service. It's about actually taking it right from the start of its value chain. If I take it from how an engine's assembled, if I change a process in cell A, how does it impact cell B, and how does it impact the tolerance? How does it impact the behavior of the engine in service? Am I getting the right kind of fuel savings, emissions, noise reductions? And then I can take that connecting of the value chain into the MRO facility. Can I optimize the life cycle management and the life cycle engineering? Then I can take that data and take all the way back into the supply chain and link that in, which can then even influence on occasions the design stage process of our engines for our future products and services. So we're doing aspects of each one of those. The value really is by connecting the dots of the digital value chain across the whole stream, and that's what we're focused on doing at the moment.
Do you, and I may be a little bit dated with this question, but is Rolls-Royce as a company, when you're building these beautiful machines back here, and they really are impressive,
Thank you.
Just to look at them, but do you have just-in-time delivery for parts, or so you have all of that going on?
So I think that's where a huge opportunity lies, in terms of we do predictive rather than reactive maintenance today. And we can do that even more enhanced way that aligns with the customer's needs. So having the right service engineer with the right part, with the right tool at the right place at the right time. And we want to enhance that capability, because it's not just about engine management now, it's about engine and aircraft. And it's about aircraft and fleet management, and that availability is what the customer is looking for. So that whole insight, us as a domain experts onto the engine, can really deliver value for our customers. But in terms of data, that's just one aspect of things. If I move on to the technology part of things, it's more about, do we have the right sensor technology? Because if I look at the data value stream, it starts with the data acquisitions. Do we have temperature? Do we have sensors that can live in the right temperature and the right pressures for the right life cycle? Are they miniature, and are they self-powering and transmit sort of through wireless means? Because these are the kind of sensors that we would need, and being rugged at the same time. So we're investing with Singapore here, investing with A-Star, on developing a nanotechnology for sensor technology, what we call the Internet of Things, and it's a collaboration center that we're investing on. Together with that is the software aspects of things, so taking hardware and connecting it with software, doing the analytics behind it, doing the killer apps that would be associated behind it, so you can then have meaningful insight that's delivered from the data that we're collecting. So that's a technology part that we'll be investing in significantly here over the next 12 months.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Don't let me interrupt you.
Okay. And then there's the smart manufacturing.
Right.
If I look at our factories today, 5 years old, they're already we're already looking at how we can improve the connecting points and improve our processes even further, improve our sort of value chain even further. So what I mean by that is the way engines are assembled, the way fan blades are manufactured, we're going to collect data points to make that process even more optimal. We've already simulated a digital twin of the factory, and we've got a great amount of insights that we've unlocked by just doing that sort of exercise. So it's about making our factories much more smart in the manufacturing part. And that's all aerospace specific so far. And I think the another part is, how does that impact the marine? while we're going through a downturn in the economy because of the oil price in the marine part of the business, we're looking to invest more into the research and technologies for our future products and services for marine. And we're looking to partner here with Singapore with the TCOMS Institute, which is a partnership with A-Star and National University of Singapore. And what that means is developing the capability for ship intelligence, for autonomous vessels, crewless vessels. So you can have port situational awareness, you can have ship situational awareness. Imagine sort of our vessels coming into our shoreline that are unmanned. And that's what this is about, developing that technology here. These technologies are transferable between the marine and the aerospace sector, and we'll be doing a lot of that as we move into the future.
Let me back up to part of my original question as well on the managing the supply chain. Asia, big continent, Southeast Asia especially, all the way down to Australia, New Zealand, et cetera, et cetera. Physically, is it easier to manage or harder to manage? And as well, you've got a lot more jurisdictions that you've got to deal with on parts. Critical parts. I mean, I ordered a piece of equipment from Shenzhen, and because it had lithium batteries in it, it got held up in customs at 2 or 3 different places. Some of your parts, I'm sure, are a lot more complicated, but you've got specialists who deal with getting them to the right place. But how is managing the supply chain here compared to the U.S. or U.S. easy, but Europe, a lot more jurisdictions as well?
We have to understand the regulations, we have to understand the legislations, and we have to understand the markets and cultures that we operate in. Trying to do this from our sort of traditional UK, US would be hard to do into Asia. We have to physically be here. And that's what we're doing today. We've got a purchasing team that are 100 people strong that manage the supply chain opportunities and activities across Southeast Asia and Pacific. And this is actually going to our vendors and actually looking at, have we got the right processes? Have we got the right rigor? Have we got the right technologies in place to make sure that the parts that come out of the supply chain have gone through a rigor, thoroughness, and test so that the part that when it comes to Rolls-Royce is 100% effective. The parts that come in, we don't test them individually. We've got the compliance and the structures in place within the supply chain. So the team here, based in Singapore, regularly traveling into the supply chain centers, whether it's in Thailand, whether it's in Malaysia, to make sure that that we've got the right rigor and compliance in place right at the root.
A little bit before we talked about MRO, power by the hour type contracts and things like that. Is that becoming more the norm or the standard in the industry where the OEMs are guaranteeing a certain availability of the product, in this case, again, the big engines?
At the end of the day, when you look at what the customer wants, they want availability. And that's what we've done with our business model. We've aligned ourselves to our customer needs. And we did that 20 years ago. And what we're doing today is taking that model and developing it even further. So looking at working in partnership with airline operators and really understanding the airline data, marrying that with the engine data and the environmental data that comes in. And there's sort of the MRO data that comes in, because if you marry all of that together, you get a great amount of insights. And that's the conversations that we're having with our airline operators and customers today.
On development, Trent 7000 in the works. Supposed to have something out first quarter 2017 or something like that. Some of the development being done here in Singapore, am I correct on that? Which is kind of a switch because previously all of it was done in Europe?
So the Trent 7000 engine is to power the A330neo. And that engine has a significant amount of similarities with the Trent 1000 engine. We have that capability of Trent 1000 here in Seletar already. And as we ramp up to our 250 capacity, we're going to be doing the Trent 1000 and the Trent 7000 here today. So the employees here on the shop floor, more than 400 of them, are being upskilled into being able to switch between the 1000 and the 7000. There's the supply chain that's in Malaysia from UMW will be developing the fan case for the Trent 1000 and the Trent 7000. So we're definitely on schedule in developing that capability. It's about upskilling and developing, making the factories fit for purpose. And later in the year, we'll be taking our first engine. We'll be leaving the Seletar factory, which will be the Trent 7000.
Future prospects, what's going to happen the rest of this year, and what are you looking forward to in 2018? Where do you see the growth? We know the growth is happening in China and India. They're buying planes left and right, and Southeast Asia, the low-cost carriers are going crazy. But there are things out there possibly in the wind, perhaps some consolidation with some of the low-cost carriers. India still having some infrastructure problems, so maybe they're not going to be able to induct as many airplanes as they thought. What are your views on that?
Well, when we look at our activities in Singapore, we still contribute 15% to Singapore's aerospace output. That's significant and growing. We're not just about doing the OE part of it, I described earlier on. It's about the technology, it's about the supply chain. It's also about the MRO. If you look at our MRO facility today, we're doing about 320 engines per annum. And that's going to ramp up pretty significantly. We want to be able to support at least 1,800 engines within the region. The customer service center, which has accountability, so having VPs of engineers and operators and customers and data analytics that sit here in country for the country, in region for the region, is huge for us. And that capability and that accountability, together with our MRO facilities that we have, allows us to service our customers in a much more enhanced way and much more timely way, much more responsive way, and to make sure that we de-risk ourselves and the customers at the same time. When I look into sort of the future direction of travel, we are looking at making not just the factories of where the OE happens, smart manufacturing, the MRO facilities will also be smart manufacturing. We're bringing new capabilities out into the MRO world, whether it's blisk repair or whether it's sort of just doing more analytics within the factory so that we get much more enhanced insight at the MRO level as well. And these are fantastic plans that we have in place, and it won't just be here in Singapore, it'll be high-value manufacturing in Singapore together with best opportunity countries that we have within the region that are working in that coordinated and networked way. And we're looking at where some of the MRO facilities within the region can also grow and grow with Singapore at the same time.
So with the new job, do you get to play any golf or anything? Or are you at the office a lot more?
Yeah, my handicap's not that good, but I'm working on it.
Dr. Bicky Bhangu, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.